Okay. So thank you everybody for joining us. My name is Claire Fowler and we are looking at caseload manager billing today. We will be going through a bunch of different options, and let me just say that there are a lot of different ways that caseload manager can handle billing. It can handle it by cases, by activity, by override. And the reason is that everybody manages billing slightly differently. And so we have tried to come up with a lot of different options and keep the program very flexible to try to reflect how your office manages billing. That being said, this flexibility in all of these options also makes billing kind of daunting in the beginning. And so I'll just try to show you all of the different options and show you how they interact with each other so that hopefully you can select the right option for your office. Okay, so I'll be talking through those options now, and then I'll be hopping back and forth between a live version and the presentation so that you can see exactly where those options are in Caseload Manager. All right, so billing. We'll just go over some basics initially. Caseload Manager is designed to manage your basic billing needs. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's a billing program. So look at the options in here, and then you might decide to come up with a different option for your centers. So some people are still using QuickBooks or another billing software, and that's fine. My one recommendation would be to just make sure that you can import and export information from Caseload Manager into your software. You know, if you're putting all of this time into Caseload Manager, you want to make sure that you can use that data with another billing program. So it is designed to track time as well as activities and payment. And obviously it tracks time because a lot of us bill via time. You know, we put 3 hours into something and so we'll charge for those 3 hours. However, even if you're not using it to manage money, I would still recommend being aware of how it does track time, because then you can give your volunteers some kudos for all of the volunteer time that they have been putting into your center. Right. We'll also look at how it can generate reports based on time and money. We'll be looking at automated invoices. I have developed one that you can use. We have a simple one. We also have a more detailed one that you can grab the code from and then customize for your center. And I will say it's designed to bill according to mediation center norms, meaning that it typically bills via or per hour or per case as opposed to per minute. You can go into global settings and change it. I think it can bill in 6-minute increments in case you need to bill for every phone call and whatnot, but that's not the default. Okay. So I mentioned that there are a lot of different options. There's override, activity charges, case type charges, and then individual expenses. So I'll go show you what all of these look like in just a moment, but let me just walk through the priorities. So let's go look at a case, okay? And, oh, hold on one second. Let's go look at this case. All right, so we will be looking at a case in Caseload Manager where there's just going to be your typical, there's a case type and we're charging according to that case type, and we'll have multiple meetings and we'll charge according to those meetings. But then let's say that for some reason we need to override that case type. This can be for quite a few different reasons. Some people need to override that case type because it's a friend, or because they got 2 cases for one Facebook special, or maybe they're doing pro bono work. Whatever it is, here's our case pulling up. And so whatever it is, you can set an override up here in the upper left, okay? So here's override pay rate. Again, the default is based on, over here on the right, it's based on the case type. So the assumption is that you are probably going to be charging, we'll say it's a construction case, and the default is it will charge $400 per hour. However, Some people, let's say it's a divorce case, then some people, or an adoption case, then some people might say, all right, we're just going to have 3 sessions and we'll charge $500 per session. For some people, it's a flat fee. So every time that you solve a problem for a certain landlord or HOA group, then it's just a flat $2,000 per case. Okay, so those are the defaults that according to the case type, you can then set the charge. Let's look at, we'll say it's a custody case, that's $300 per hour. Okay, so I'll hit update. And we'll go back into it. And now it's going to look at the amount of time I have put into this case, and it's going to charge me. However, I've put in an override. See that down here at the bottom? So it's saying, Claire, you've put in 1/3 of an hour, and since you're charging $300 per hour, I would like to charge $100 for this case. However, you've put in an override up here in the upper left. You see where I'm at there? So I can set an override pay rate. So maybe instead of $300 an hour, I know this family, and I know that they work through a lot of their issues, and it's going to be pretty simple, fast work. So maybe I'm only charging $100 per hour, okay? Or maybe I've worked with them before, and part of our negotiated agreement is that whenever we mediate, it's just going to be a flat $200 per session. And so since we're just meeting once, I'll just do a straight balance due of $200. All right? So this is just to show you right now how the priority works in here. Again, the default is it wants to charge by case type, but I can then override that over here on the left by setting my own pay rate or my own balance due. Okay, so now we're going to look at how do you set those up initially? How do I set up the charges? So I'm going to back out of this case, and we're going to look at settings and then hop down to case types. So you can see here in case types, this is where I can identify how much I want to charge for something. And this is also where I can change it. So let's say that under divorce and parent-teen, I want to change this. And so now I'm just going to charge a flat $200 for every session. So now the obvious question is, Claire, how do you identify what is a session? Okay. So again, this gets a little bit more complex, but we can work through it. If something is charging per hour, that's pretty obvious, right? It's how many hours you put into a case, it's going to charge you based on that. If it's charging per case, that's pretty obvious. You open a case, you close a case, that's a complete case. It will assign, let's say it's landlord-tenant, it will just assign a flat $2,000 for that case. But session, that's a little tricky. So we're going to go look at right now, how to identify what is a session. I'm going back to settings, coming down to activity and calendar types, and now we can see some options in here. You can see that some of these have a flat charge per activity. Some of these other ones have a flat charge per session. For instance, face-to-face caucus meeting, that is considered a session. A joint meeting is also considered a session. To change that, I can click onto the record. The record opens up, allowing me to edit it. And now for here, there's this little checkbox, and it says, does this constitute a session? Okay, I say, yep, it sure does. So I update record. Okay, so now let's go back and figure out what we just did. I'm going to click on my case. I'll scoot that over here so it's a little easier to view. There we go. Okay, so now I'm changing my case type to say this is parent-teen, and I want to charge it at $200 a session. I'll go ahead and update the case, which saves that change. We'll go back into it. Okay, so now I've said this is going to charge at $200 per session. So now I'm going to actually add a session. All right, so I come over here to calendar item. And so I could set this as 1 minute or, 5 hours if I wanted to. It doesn't really matter because, again, it's just charging for the total session. There's one set fee for this item regardless of how much time it takes. I'll set myself as a mediator, and now I'm going to set the type. And remember, it's going to charge per session, okay? So I'm going to say this is a joint meeting. Scrolling down. I scrolled too far. There we go. It's a joint meeting. I'll hit save. There we go. And we'll go ahead and update the case. Okay, so now I have a session in there. And so now it's saying, Claire, you've done 5.5 hours on this case, but you've only had one session. And since it's charging per session, we just have a flat balance due of $200. Okay? All right, let's go. So I'm going to hop back out here. So I mentioned that override has the highest priority. Below that is activity and calendar type charges. What the heck are those? Let's go look. All right. So a second ago, I was adding a calendar item, right? I was in this case, and I added this joint meeting, which is considered a session. So let's say I'm going to add something else to this case. I'm very busy on this case, apparently. I'm doing lots of work. Okay. So I'm adding a calendar item, and let's say we are going to have we're going to have a supervised visitation, and this is just a flat $15, okay? What this means is that when I add this, whatever the calculated balance due is, it's just going to add $15 on top of that, okay? So let's think about some times where you might actually use this. For instance, a lot of people will have a free intake, or perhaps $15 for an intake. Or they'll have a flat fee for their case, but then they'll charge a different amount for documents or agreement preparation, okay? So if you have those little one-off things that you do, activity and calendar items that are a slightly different charge, then here's where you can identify those slightly different charges that you still need to make note of, but but it's not part of your normal, whatever, $150 per hour fee or your normal flat $500 for a case, okay? So coming into activity items, this is where you can add another charge on top of the existing charge, okay? So, oh, sorry, I have to go back and assign the staff. Fine, there we go. Okay, I'm in there. All right, so I've assigned the staff, hit save, calendar item added. Okay, so I mentioned in billing priority, case type is the default amount. So that's what it wants to charge by. And if that's the only thing you use, then that's fantastic. It will allow you to charge, as you can see here, by hour, by session, or by case. And for most people, that's enough. It's just whenever you get those additional little things, like you're doing a training and maybe you have to charge each person a different amount for the training because some people are volunteering, some people are volunteering part of the time, whatever it is. As you have all these little extra charges, that's when you can begin to set these activity types, right? Because that has the next priority. You can set those activity types to add different amounts on top of the default case amount. Or if you need to track what the amount would be, okay, but you want to override it, that's when you would use override. Here's a really good example of that. What if you're doing a pro bono case, okay? You want to know how much you would have charged for that case, but then you can override it to say, I'm actually only going to charge $0. Got it? All right. So again, for this case, the default is it's charging $200 per session. But then I've added these couple of additional sessions. So I added a session where it's going to charge $200, and then I also added this supervised visitation fee, okay, at another $15 per session. So I need to add those in, and then on top of that, if I want to, I can override it and say, I want to override this balance due and only charge $100 because that's the amount we agreed on, and then my rates went up or something. So I can always come back in and override that amount, which makes sense. That has the top priority, you know, because it's called override. So it should have the top priority. Okay. So you can see down here that it's only going to charge $100 because that's the override amount that I did. Okay. So, so just to review, the main way that you set up your billing is under settings and then case types. Okay. 95% of your stuff is going to be handled in here. This is where you identify the type of case and how much you're going to charge. If you have individual activity and calendar item things that you need to charge a separate amount for, you can also do that in activity and calendar types, right? So I can come into these activity and calendars and say, for an intake, I am actually going to charge $50 per session, or sorry, per activity, because I just have a flat intake fee, whether it takes 5 minutes or 3 hours. That's the way I run my practice. I just do a flat $50, okay? So now every time I add an activity, every time I add an intake to my case, it will just add on a flat $50. All right, so hopefully that's starting to click. So to initially set up your billing, your homework is to come into settings, go into case types, set up charges, then go into activity and calendar types and set up your charges. All right? Okay, so let's say you've done that, life is going along, your case is charging per hour or per session, life is good. Then something happens, okay? So then we're going to come here into add activity. I'll scoot this over so you can see it a little better. There we go. Okay, so I'm down here in add activity and something else has happened. Now I need to invoice them a specific amount, okay? Let's say that Mary said, hey, I'll pay for $100 of this mediation, okay? Or let's say that I'm only going to charge the attorney. So here's where I would put a specific charge for this person, okay? I'm now going to be invoicing them $100 for this activity, okay? So hopefully that piece is making sense. Okay, then we can get even more fancy. Let's say that I'm invoicing them $100 for this new activity. I'll say it's a drafting, okay? But, so I'm letting them know that I'm going to charge them, but let's say they've also paid $100. So here's where I can indicate that payment amount. Okay, so you can see that within activities, this is where I actually handle a lot of my billing stuff. All right. Let's say Josh was the staff. Okay, we'll go ahead and hit save. Okay, we'll give this a second to update. And so now it's letting me know that the case total is 200, that they have paid 100 so far, and that there is obviously there's a balance due of 100. It's also letting me know that I've put 8.5 hours into this case so far. Okay, I'm going to remove this balance due because I want to go create an invoice, and it's just going to get complicated if we see all these different amounts. All right. So So we will update here. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to go back in. All right, so let's do, want something a little more, there we go. We'll charge 500 per session. My rates just keep going up and up. All right, so we're charging 500 per session. We've added a session and we've tracked one payment. All right, so that all makes sense down here, right? Case total is 500. We have one payment for $100, so we have a balance due of 400, right? Making sense? Okay. So we've got all of our payments tracked and we're saying, hey, we still need $400 from these people. So now we want to invoice them, okay? So I can come over here to the left-hand side where I can invoice people. So I can send an email to everyone, or perhaps just the attorney is going to be paying for this. If so, then I'll just send an email directly to that attorney. Okay, so see over here where it says the attorney, and I can click, there we go. I can click on that email link next to her name. So that's what I want to do. Click email, ta-da! The Mail Hub pops open. So now from in here, I'm going to send her an invoice. Again, I can just type it up myself, or I can use one of these templates. There is a template pre-installed with your program, or you can hop out to the support center where you will see an invoice template. You can just grab that code and copy and paste it into your templates. Let me know if you have any questions about that. Okay, so I'm clicking on detailed invoice. There is another shorter one, but if I send a detailed invoice, there will be a lot more information, obviously. I'll click edit and send. All right. And so now I can review this, dear first name, last name, balance due, billing method, etc. Okay, so this is giving me a quick summary. Now I'm going to hit print down at the bottom. Oh, except I have too many people added. Let me go back in. Go back, go back, go back. Okay, so instead we're going to go about it this way. Okay, it does not want to print that one, so we're going all parties, detailed invoice, edit and send. It'll let me do it this time. Okay, oh bother, hold on. I'm going to get out of this system. Can you hear me clicking in the background? Okay, so that's updating for just a moment. I obviously did a lot of work on that case, and it is going to update in just a moment, and I want you to see what that looks like on in the invoicing section. But while that's happening, I wanted to show you where to grab that invoice code, okay? So I'm over here in Caseload Manager, and then I click Help, right? And then it takes me to the Help Center. From here, I go down to Help Topics, Administrators Billing, Billing Overview. From here, I've got a lot of different options, a lot of different help features for going through the different billing options. I want to talk about this first one, minimum billing time increment, okay? So I mentioned that the Caseload Manager is run on more of a mediation schedule, okay? So it bills according to more of a mediation standard. But if your office does things differently, then you can change that in global settings, okay? So Caseload Manager, hop down to settings, global settings, and then over here on the left, see it says minimum time increment. So the minimum is 10, and you know, it's just going to round up or down so it reaches 10 minutes. Again, I know some people use 6 minutes. I've got a bunch of people we work with in the UK that work on 15 minutes, okay? So whatever the standard is for your office, there's where you can set the time increment. So long as we're in here, let's also look at, here's where you can make some bigger changes if you ever had to change your currency. Not sure why, but here's where you can make those changes as well. So there are some other billing options for you, okay? So let's hop back here. Okay, we looked at time increment. We looked at billing priority. Again, I mentioned override has the highest priority. And then we have activity type charges. We looked at both of those. You set those up in the activity center. Case types are the default amount. So the majority of the time, you just want to be working with your case types. But then you can add on individual expenses as you need to. Okay? We looked at billing setup. So we did that in the settings menu. And then we went down to case types and we looked at different charges. Again, you can charge those per case, per session, or per hour. We also looked at creating a billing invoice, and you can set up that invoice over in the email hub. And then finally, if you're charging by session or by activity, you can go down to settings, activity, and calendar types, and then set up those specifics as well, okay? This also lets you know about how you can override that amount. Okay? Reporting. So we've done all this great work. We've set up all the foundation. We've been working hard. We've been charging people. So now this is where we can kind of show it off, where we can look at how hard we've been working. Okay. So I'm going to hop back out to my caseload manager. Okay. Come back, come back. No. I keep clicking on the billing reports menu and it's right up next to the, it's at the pause share button. Come back, sharing. There we go, resume share. Okay, so what you guys couldn't see, I clicked on reports, I hopped down here to billables, and then I set my date range for this date range, okay? And so now I have a billables report. Let me also point out that you can export this, which is useful, but most of the time, I'll be honest, I just copy and paste what I need, and then I'll put it in an email or something if I need to send people a summary of our billing, okay? So we'll just walk you through this really quickly. Case ID, obviously on the left, case name, billing method. So obviously this is saying, am I just grabbing the invoices from activities? Is it per hour, per case total, per session, right? How is it grabbing that information? What is the billing amount? What has been paid so far? And what is left? Does that make sense? Okay, so what's an example here? So this is the one we were just looking at. We're charging $500 per session. They've paid $100, so we have $400 left. Now, if that amount is being overridden for any reason, then I can see the new calculated balance due over here on that far right-hand column. Okay, so pretty useful report so that we can see, you know, how much money is coming in. 39,000. How much money is actually coming in, okay? And then what we have left, 36,000. So that's what we're still hoping for, you know, cross your fingers. So hopefully this is making sense. Again, pretty useful report. I just got to it from reports and then down here in billables. Somebody's asking about if you can just track payments specifically. So I'll go to reports, activity and calendar items. And then this is going to show me, and again, I could just look for a specific case if I needed to, but this would show me if I had any payments coming in, how I could I could see those payments here in activity items. Obviously, I could also just filter my activities and just filter for payments. So there's a few different ways you can do that. All right, I'm just reading one more question. Hold on here. Okay. Okay, I think I understand that. All right, so let me hop over to that screen. Okay. All right, so what they were asking is if there is a way to just send an invoice to one person or a way to send an invoice to multiple people, okay? So, so I'm within my case, and then I can decide if I'm sending an email to all or just to one or to a group. So perhaps I'm just sending an invoice to the attorneys that are involved, or I just need to invoice my consultant, okay? Or if I'm sending an invoice to just one person. All right, so here's Robert Smith, he's our attorney. So I'm going to hop down here and click on invoice. We'll click edit and send. I can review this if I want to. All right, and then I'm going to hit print so I can get a copy of this. You can see that he does not owe very much, which is great for him. And so it's just giving a quick summary. I'm sure you recognize these. These are all the text substitutions. So here's the name of the case. This substituted in the balance due, received payments, etc. All right, we can go back and see. So see all these text substitutions where it has balance due, billing method, etc. So that's where we got those numbers, those calculations of 0. All right. Again, these are templates, and so if you want to edit it, you just click edit here in the upper left, and then that will allow us to edit the template. So I was mentioning yesterday, in case you want them to send payments in 10 days instead of 5, you just click edit on the template and then click update, okay? All right, so a lot of information. Let me hop back out here. So we looked at reports. Okay, you can view your billing information in the reporting hub. From that billables report, you can then export it or copy and paste. We looked at invoicing, and then there's one final thing you can do to export this information. Okay, I'm going to go back to Caseload Manager. From here, I'm going to select fields, and now, where are those lovely little fields? Here we go. So now I'm selecting what fields I want, and I can select invoice, paid, balance due, billing method, and so on, all right? So I can select my billing fields, hit update, and then I can export those fields. So this is just like the billables report in here, but it's a way to generate your own report, okay? For the cases that you want, and to make sure that you're getting the exact fields that you want, all right? So you guys can read this. So this is showing invoice, paid, due, billing method. And again, then I can just export this and view it in Microsoft Excel in case that's helpful. Okay. So we looked at invoicing, and then finally, if you have any additional questions, just hop down here. Please give us a call, 541-345-1629, or you can send an email to support@caseloadmanager.com. So thank you everyone so much. Let us know if you have any questions, and remember your homework is within Caseload Manager, hop over here to settings, look through your case types and your activity and calendar types, set those up to make sure that the charges are mimicking what you want. And then from there, go into mail and set up invoice templates Again, to make sure that you can email people or that you can print out those invoices. Okay, and practice doing that on a couple of cases, send them to yourself, do it for a couple dummy clients, and let us know if you have any questions. Thank you so much.